As a result, from the start of Thursday next week, mandatory certification will end. Organisations can, of course, choose to use the NHS COVID pass voluntarily, but we will end the compulsory use of its status certification in England. From now on, the government is no longer asking people to work from home. And people should now speak to their employers about arrangements for returning to the office. And having looked at the data carefully, the Cabinet concluded that once regulations lapse, the government will no longer mandate the wearing of face masks anywhere. Mr. Speaker, we will trust the judgment of the British people and no longer criminalise anyone who chooses not to wear one. The government will also ease restrictions further on visits to care homes.
Wow, that is the wild party man himself, Boris Johnson, announcing the end of many government mandates, signaling the end of this entire nightmare, something that we said was going to happen weeks ago, and finally, it is. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Rudowski here of WeAreChange.org, and there has been a major shift of the narrative, of the official story, of the agenda. It is absolutely significant, and that's why specifically we will be focusing on this topic in this particular video. Now, are we in the clear? Are we going to have peace, prosperity from this? Well, no. It looks like there's a conflict brewing with Russia and the Western world, as of course we're just going to jump into the news. We got a lot of important information to talk about as we have the latest information of the United States government warning that Russia could soon attack Ukraine, with what the U.S. Secretary of State said with very short notice. This, as the Secretary of State is going to be meeting with Russian and Ukrainian government officials just moments from now, as there has been information put forward by the U.S. intelligence agencies that recently have been puppeteered by the Biden administration that Russia will soon be creating their own pretext, that Russia will be, quote, staging an event in order to start this invasion, quote, under false pretenses. This is routinely known historically as a false flag operation and standard protocol in many wars all throughout recorded human history. It's important to note that the United States government also has a history of using similar events like the Gulf of Tonkin, which admittedly was one of these events used to launch the Vietnam War, all of course under false pretenses. There's of course also Operation Northwoods with the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff decades ago, literally talking about hijacking civilian airplanes themselves as Americans to launch a false attack on the United States to blame it on Cuba. And while some corporate media executives have been telling us for years now that this never happens, now them coming forward with this, saying that Russia is going to do it to Ukraine, is a very interesting development, with a story that of course all hinges on anonymous U.S. intelligence sources that have not put their name behind this major claim. Russia, of course, has been publicly denying this claim, saying officially that on the record they plan on not doing anything like this. But according to Bloomberg News, it was the CIA director, William Burns, who is the man behind this claim against Russia, who made it just after his secretive visit to Ukraine on January 12th, where of course he met with Ukrainian intelligence agents and of course the president of Ukraine himself. Now, if any government organization knows about false flags and has mastered them, it's definitely the CIA, and rightfully so. A lot of people were skeptical of this official assessment since the CIA has a long-standing record of lying about policies that have gotten the American people into war before. And we're not just talking about weapons of mass destruction. In other covert, undercover government agent news, we're also finding out that the uncharged J6 instigator himself, Ray Epps, will be appearing before the House committee in just a few days from now to testify about his involvement in those events. This is, of course, a story that we're going to be following very closely. And in other alleged CIA covert operations news, according to one Echo Health Alliance whistleblower, Peter Daszak, the man who is extremely closely involved with this entire sickness for the last few years, was also allegedly working for the CIA. Peter Daszak is not a name that many people have heard, especially in the mainline American public, but he's a key instrumental figure in all the events that have led up to and including the global sickness that has taken the world by storm within the last 2 years. Is he a CIA agent? Well, it wouldn't surprise me if he was. The allegations are pretty important and definitely worth considering, especially with the way that events have been unfolding here in the United States. Now, there's a lot more I want to say about this particular topic: the intelligence agencies, false flags, even new internet bandwidth technology that YouTube has banned even mentioning on many occasions, as people were warning you years ago that this would lead to some severe problems, as now the corporate media is reporting that there could be some severe problems because of it. What is this latest technology? Well, of course, we're going to be talking about that, plus a lot more, all exclusively on LukeUncensored.com, as well as the latest bombshell by a World Health Organization scientist that, of course, we cannot mention here on this platform. The video will be available for members only later on today on LukeUncensored.com, 50 cents a day, along with 3 master classes that you get with survival, journalism, expatting, traveling, whatever you're interested in learning in. We have master classes teaching you how to do that, all a part of your membership, which, of course, also goes towards growing and expanding this independent media operation. We, of course, also will be setting up a communication platform where members only get to find similar members in their country. I'm going to be doing more meetups all throughout the United States. To be a part of those meetups, those upcoming future events, well, they're only going to be available to, of course, members of LukeUncensored.com, which secures a free and independent future for this media organization that allows us to have our own infrastructure that absolutely is crucially important during these days. Click the link down in the description below to find out more. Now, throughout the last 2 years, there have been many significant developments and changes to people's everyday average lives, one of the biggest ones of which is, of course, the destruction of people's individual human rights. Even a major UN organization, Human Rights Watch, acknowledged this with their article, Human Rights Diminishes, all because of the response towards this sickness. And they highlight how many politicians, bureaucrats, autocrats, dictators, and just some purely evil people throughout this world have used this sickness as an excuse to shut down any kind of dissent in their countries and suppressed populations from even just speaking against their authority. And even though we predominantly hear a lot of news coming from the West, it's important to note that in other places like the Philippines, people are being threatened with being arrested if they didn't take a product, as the government there has made a list of individuals who did not want to take this product and soon will be going after them. In Rwanda, there's victims coming forward in Africa saying that people are forced to take this product without any consent by, of course, men with weapons and special uniforms, which they believe grant them some kind of special privilege and power over others. And there's so many human rights violations that there's too many to mention here all throughout the last 2 years, as of course some politicians are looking to keep these policies for the next few years regardless of whatever happens with this sickness. And that policy is absolutely not scientific, it's absolutely illogical, and hurts people regardless of the situation, all in the name of health, which there's no regard for. To them, all of this is done for the, quote, greater good, as CNN host Don Lemon said that himself, specifically when talking about one of the world's top-ranked tennis stars, Novak Djokovic, who was just expelled for a country for not fully obeying them, even though he had 2 board-certified organizations excusing him from these mandates, which were illogical for him to take. And according to Don Lemon, a sports athlete having 2 medical board exemptions against a product is, quote, idiotic because he didn't take this product. Even Don Lemon went as far as to say that Djokovic shouldn't be a part of a polite society, specifically saying people who do their own research should be ostracized from society. This, of course, is dangerous, hyperbolic, sensationalistic language from this corporate media outlet that has no regard for the truth, hasn't backed any of their claims by any scientific data or information, and is literally spewing nonsense and hatred towards those people who, of course, don't comply with the whims of authoritarian governments. Very interestingly, also, in some cases, when you compare the approach by authoritarian governments against governments who were not authoritarian, like Japan, whose number of cases are highlighted here in red, when you compare how they dealt with this entire situation compared to, of course, Europe or the United States, the case numbers speak for themselves. Specifically with Japan recognizing natural immunity, not implementing any kind of domestic passport system, any kind of mandate system. The government there didn't harass people or manipulate or try to exploit them to take a product. And I think it's fair to argue that they fared a lot better than a lot of the world that had the opposite approach of what Japan did. And a lot of people are recognizing that. People aren't stupid. They're seeing that the politicians that call for these mandates, that many of them don't follow themselves, is creating a lot of people to question everything that they have sacrificed, all in the name of the greater good, which literally resulted in one of the largest transfers of wealth in recorded human history from the very poor and the middle class to the uber super rich. As Axios even has an article talking about how, quote, distrust in political media and business leaders sweeps the globe, and absolutely because a lot of people are finding out that they were scammed, that they were lied to in absolute indecent ways where there was no transparency, no accountability, and politicians and business leaders and media organizations used a horrible situation for their own personal benefit. This is why some people are saying that there's a mass awakening happening right now, as there's major pushback against insane draconian policies that are being implemented right now that clearly have no scientific backing, will disrupt the global supply chain even more and cause more economic havoc, all in the name of what? Why are they doing this? This, as the Washington Examiner is highlighting, how 2.5 million truckers are saying that they will quit over the proposed mandates that Biden wanted to implement in this country that have luckily failed. But by decree already, there is a mandate that is stopping truckers coming from Canada to the United States having to be forced to undergo unnecessary procedures and compliance tests, which is having Canadian truckers protest this, as some truckers have put political messages on their trucks and have decided to block all lanes of traffic between the United States and Canada as a sign of protest. The Canadian mandate goes into effect January 15th. The United States plans on implementing a very similar one. Why? What's the point of this? Since these mandates clearly haven't worked, why would you disrupt the global supply chain even more? Well, that's a question a lot of people are asking themselves, as of course the economies of the world have been left in shambles, especially where they had the most amount of lockdowns and restrictions. Australia is also inviting international backpackers to help ease the workforce shortage, which was created by, of course, their own mandates. In the United Kingdom, their country is dealing with one of the highest inflation rates since a 30-year high, and this could be one reason why the UK government has just announced the ending of many lockdowns, restrictions, and mandates in its countries, as of course the video that we played in the beginning of this broadcast specifically highlighted the end of Plan B measures, which soon, according to the English government, will be totally wiped out. This is a major move. This is a major step back against the agenda, the policies. The government no longer mandating individuals to go through their obedience rituals is a major step for a big, significant Western country that is signaling the turning of the tides here of people clearly having enough of this bull crap. What they have sacrificed, the consequences of the global economy and financial institutions that have hurt people so tremendously, cannot proceed any longer. And this is why I believe people are having enough of this entire nonsense. Now again, just a few weeks ago, we were telling you on LukeUncensored.com and even on this broadcast and even on the Timcast IRL show specifically that in a few weeks from now, all of this would start to end, and this is exactly what's happening right now with even the Czech Republic just joining the United Kingdom and announcing that they are scrapping mandatory procedures for everyone. There's a huge step back by this global agenda, by this narrative that deserves to be recognized, because this is an important moment that, in my opinion, signals the end of this nightmare. Now, are we in the clear? No, there's still a lot of other stuff that we should be worried about, that we should be concerned. But by and large, especially with elections coming up here in the United States, I do not see any way that politicians could be proposing these tight restrictions and controls and still be popular or even win elections. There's no way. Even visiting New York City just a few weeks ago, I saw myself talking to individuals in that city, even the people who complied the most, utter tiredness, despair, and unresolved contempt for the state that has taken away from them the most precious of things, their existence on this world, all in the name of policies that clearly didn't work. In my opinion, this is what's happening right now. If you think I'm wrong in any way, shape, or form, let me know why in the comment section below. But I don't know. I might just make a compilation of me a couple weeks ago saying that this was going to happen, because it's important to understand the larger context of why this is happening, because of people's voices, because of people's discontent, because of people saying enough is enough peacefully. Your voice matters. Your actions matter. I got a lot more to say about this, plus a lot more, and I will be doing that on lukeuncensored.com. Hope to see you guys there later on today. And because you guys watch this video, spend time with me, share this video with your friends and family members. This is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.